All right, I'd like to call to order the meeting of the Board of Education of St. Mary's County for Wednesday, June 29th, 2016. May I have a motion to move into executive session?
Go ahead.
I move that the Board of Education go into executive session for personnel, collective bargaining, or legal, property acquisition issues, and student issues, Maryland Local Government Code Article, Section 9-512, A1, 2, 6, and 10.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
We like to get a lot of views. It's nice.
Yes.
Yeah.
Scott, watch. And with that, I'd like to reconvene the meeting of the Board of Education of St. Mary's County for Wednesday, June 29th, 2016, and we will begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. First item is a move to approve the agenda.
I move approval of the agenda as presented.
Do I have a second?
I second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Mrs. Weaver, board report.
All right. I like sitting down here because I get to go first.
I know.
So coming up on the consent agenda, there is a request for approval for Title I grant funds for purchasing American Reading Company books and also support for the staff. So I wanted to understand better about these Title I grants that we are receiving. And also, I was also intrigued about this book company because on the information that we received, it also said about books going home with the children for family time. And I thought that was really a great idea. So this past week, I met with Miss Kelly Hall, who is in charge of these grants and keeping track of everything. And she met with me for a good hour, so I really thank her so much for taking the time to go over all this information with me. So she also had some examples of these books and packages and things that are used in the classroom and things that the kids go home with. It was very, very interesting. They do not say you're in, let's say, a lower reading group or you're in a high reading group. They have colors. And according to the color that the group of reading that the child is in, they, look, there's certain things that they need to know before they can move on to the next color, like certain sight words and things like that. And they have to make sure they're proficient in that. And the teacher sits with them, just for a few minutes every week to make sure everybody's on target. There's also cards that go home with the children for the family, for things that the parents or grandparents or aunts or uncles or friends, whatever, can work on with the child. And they also get to pick. She said a lot of the kids go home with even 3 or 4 books a night of something that they're interested in. So they have a half-an-hour reading time, encourages the kids to read. Also, I was intrigued by the science books that are in the bins. So if they're doing a project on, let's say, butterflies, there's different books in that bin at different reading levels. So every child can find something that they are able to read and, be able to sit down themselves and be proficient in what they are doing. And I thought that was really, really neat. Also, she had very, very organized lady. She had color-coded in her computer where this person that's in charge, they hired somebody for this Title I grant. and where they are at all times. So there's 4 schools that have this grant, so each day of the week, this person is at a different school. And she could tell you, just by pulling up the computer, she says, if I go to that school and go into let's say Mrs. Bailey's class, that person that they hired for this Title I grant reading will be in there working with those students. And then she said on Friday, then she meets with this person. They go over any issues or what they could do better. They also meet with the company. So, like I said, very, very organized lady. She did a great job explaining things to me, and I think it's a great program. Like I said, the kids look forward to what their, I forget the name of it, it's like what their power is, or, there's another word for it, and I apologize, but what they're working on, going back and rereading, or, working towards the next level, or maybe writing a paragraph. So each child it's geared to each child specifically. So I learned so much going in there and talking to Miss Kelly Hall, and I thank her again for taking the time to go through everything, and also how she accounts for this money. So,
Thank you. Mr. Crane?
After last meeting, I attended the Flag Day ceremonies over at the Government Center, and it was a very enjoyable ceremony and quite patriotic, and I think that it gave everyone in the community a chance to express their patriotism and their love for country.
All right, I'm going to go back to the end of school, and Mrs. Washington and Mrs. Allen and I attended the 8th grade promotion ceremony at Margaret Brent. Great job by all of the faculty and staff there. I will recognize there were 2 students that did achieve all A's throughout their entire middle school career. So that was a great accomplishment. And it was very well attended. And other than that, we have been summertime ball field practice and swimming. So, Mrs. Washington.
Yes. I attended the annual retirement and length of service reception for our employees. We always do that at the end of the year. We recognize employees who had 25 years of service, 30 years of service, 35 years of service, 40 years of service, and 45 years of service to St. Mary's County Public Schools. And I appreciate them being steadfast in their service to us. We also recognize those employees who have retired from the system, and we wish them the best. We thank them for their years of service, and we hope they come back and volunteer. We would really like to have some of them back.
Substitute teachers in our classrooms. That's really nice for them to come back.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you. It was a wonderful service.
Mrs. Allen?
In addition to all of the things that everyone's mentioned thus far, I also attended the Leonardtown Elementary School 5th grade promotion ceremony. It's always a great deal of fun. The students are very involved with it, and it was a great ceremony. So congratulations to all.
Mr. Smith?
Well, we did all those things. Those were fun altogether. I had real joy last week on Wednesday. I cooked breakfast for the ANS, all the administrators, principals, assistant principals, supervisors over at the tech center, and to Chef Granados, who that's her kitchen and her domain. She let me come in, and a couple of other like-minded administrators, Mr. Egan and I, were cooking eggs, and Dr. Marr, he's in here. He was flipping a lot of flapjacks. It was a really nice time. And so perhaps when we retire, that's something we could do. I think we did a bang up job. So
IHOP.
that was right. I mean, there's everybody needs breakfast.
Short order cook.
Yeah, that's how I started. So why not be
There you go.
where I am?
Full circle.
Full circle. On a more serious note, but a very important note, on Saturday, we did an active shooter drill in conjunction with the Sheriff's Department and Emergency Medical Services, the whole deployment team, where they actually went through and they simulated somebody coming in to do harm in our schools, and how we would react as a county to that. So the sheriff's office brought in tactical teams, and then after we went through the entire event, how emergency medical services would come in and how they would respond to the event, and then for our part, for St. Mary's County Public Schools, how we would handle reunification after we had evacuated the building. And it was a day of a lot of learning, and it speaks very highly of St. Mary's County and all of the different agencies and how well they worked together, that they were able to put on such a real life drill. And it was a real life drill with moulage, which means that all the people participating, several of them were actually put on, had makeup as though they were wounded. It was really quite something. So I'd like to give a shout out to the Sheriff's Department, Emergency Medical Services teams that were responded, and Mr. Mike Wyant, who coordinated a great deal of the activity through the Office of Safety and Security. It was really quite something, and it stays with you, and it makes us realize how incredible this community is, and then also how incredibly vigilant we need to be to keep all of our kids and all of ourselves safe. So it was quite a day, but that also ended with food. So it was all very good. So everybody in their garb, and they were all eating barbecue. It ended very nicely. So
And I understand there were 100 volunteers?
Oh, there was well over 100 people there. It was really quite something. As you walked out of George Washington Carver after everybody had gone together and the food was being served, there were patrol cars, ambulances, fire trucks, all the cars of all the people. It was quite an event. So I don't know that we'll do that every year. But we learned a great deal, and it's a real testament to the community that we all come together for something such as that. So, with that, thank you.
Okay. All right, Ms. Laurel Dietz, recognitions.
Oh, we have some
We
recognition.
do. Youth Art Month contest. Who's not on? We got him. It was Dan. It was Dan.
It was me.
Dan's in the technical difficulty seat
Dan's
tonight.
No, mine had been
I'll
turned
move
off
my water
also.
over here.
There's Dan and Kathy.
Where's your baby-proof cup?
I moved it all the way over here. I think it'll be safe.
All right. Good evening, members of the Board of Education and guests. I'm Laurel Dietz. I'm the Supervisor of Instruction for Fine Arts for St. Mary's County Public Schools. And tonight I'd like to take a moment to recognize some of the wonderful work that our student artists have done this year. Before we get started, I would like to recognize that Mrs. Bachner from Leonardtown Middle School and Mrs. Hankinson from Town Creek Elementary School are also here to support their students who are being recognized tonight. We put all of the recognitions together because we like to make sure that we are recognizing the breadth of talent that we have in our system. So these are clumped together in what we call our Youth Art Month recognition. Youth Art Month really happens in March, but these things happen beginning in March and then in May and so on through the end of the year. But we like to make sure that everybody can see the breadth of what our students are producing, and we can appreciate all of the talent that we have in our visual artists. So I'd like to tell you a little bit about what the purposes of Youth Art Month are. They are to direct attention to the value of art education, which develops divergent and critical thinking, multicultural awareness, and technical communication and expressive skills. To increase community, business, and governmental support for education. To recognize that art is a necessity for the full development of better quality of life for all people. To expand art programs in schools and to stimulate new ones. To increase community understanding and interest in art and art education through involvement in art exhibits, workshops, and other creative venues. To provide additional opportunities for individuals of all ages to participate in creative art learning. To encourage commitment to the arts by students, community organizations, and individuals everywhere. And to recognize art education as a viable component in the total education curricula that develops citizens of a global society. And I think that that last one really speaks to me, the global society. The ability to express meaning through art, I think, is one of the most important skills that students need to be learning as we move into this digital world where things happen so quickly that sometimes it's just an image that speaks to us. So that piece really speaks to me of the importance of art education for all of our students. I'd like to begin the recognitions tonight with the Women's Club Youth Art Month contest, and I'd like to welcome Ms. Joan Springer up. She is a representative from the Women's Club of St. Mary's County, and she has the prizes that are going to be awarded to each of our recognees today. Mr. Smith, would you like to join me as well? Thank you. So thank you, Ms. Springer, for joining us. Okay. All right, and I've added a multimedia dimension to my presentation, so hopefully everything will work just right. Okay.
That's nice.
It is, yes. Okay, thank you. Julie, go.
Yeah.
The first person we'd like to recognize is Logan Carter. He couldn't be with us tonight, but his parents are here, so I'd like to welcome them up. Logan Carter is from Leonardtown Middle School, and he was awarded honorable mention in the Women's Club Art Contest.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Next, and Samantha actually has her artwork, so Samantha is going to remember to walk in front of the board. So this is Samantha Hotz from Leonardtown Middle School, and she received 3rd place in the competition.
Samantha, you get a 30-point ribbon and $20 for your artwork. You're welcome.
We'd next like to recognize Charlotte Wood, who received 2nd place, and she also attends Leonardtown Middle School.
You receive a ribbon and $30.
And last, we'd like to recognize Lauren Crandall, who was awarded 1st place, who also attends Leonardtown Middle School.
Super.
Very nice. That was a beautiful portrait. And you were really worthy of the first prize ribbon, $50.
They're not here. Great, I will take that.
It's Samantha.
Yes, Samantha Wells couldn't be with us tonight. So thank you. I will make sure that they get that. Thank you. Thank you, Mrs. Springer.
And what we'll do when we go to the break, because Mrs. Bachner is here. There's Mrs. Bachner. We'll get a picture of all of you with your
Thank you.
artwork,
I forgot.
with Mrs. Bachner, with the board. So just kind of be thinking about that, because you're going to have to find each other and have the artwork. Okay? So be thinking about how we're gonna work that.
Thank you, I forgot.
All right.
All right. Our next recognition is for our Young at Art exhibition, and this is something that we do in conjunction with St. Mary's College of Maryland, and it started 3 years ago as a pilot program in Spring Ridge Middle School and Great Mills High School, and then last year it was opened up to the entire county, and then again this year was the entire county, and we've seen the participation in this exhibition grow each year. And I want to read a little bit about what happens during this. So the Boyden Gallery and the Department of Educational Studies at St. Mary's College of Maryland invited all the St. Mary's County schools to participate in their 3rd annual exhibition. And this is for elementary, middle, and high school students. The exhibition was on display in the Boyden Gallery at St. Mary's College of Maryland. So they actually do an installation the way they would for any college installation or any professional installation. They frame the work. It's really a beautiful setup that they have done in the Boyden Gallery. Then all of the entries, or the people who have entered work, are invited to come to the open house. They tour the gallery, and then they do an award ceremony where they have a juror, who this year was Claire Nichols. She's a Baltimore-based artist and museum educator. She comes in and she judges all of the artwork, and then makes the determination of how the placements fall out, and they award that during the open house. But the artwork actually stays on display for the entire month of May. This is a really nice program that they've started with us. So our first recognition for this is Emily Rogers. She was the Viewer's Choice Award, and she's from Evergreen Elementary School. And this was her entry. So Emily, if you can come on up. Our next recognition is Michael Stahl, and he received second place for grades K through 5 and the Jurors Award for Outstanding Work, and he's from Town Creek Elementary School. Congratulations. Thank you. You're so welcome. That's your certificate.
So you understand our photographer is running the whole video, so for her to come out and take a picture, then we have to stop. So we're going to go through the whole thing and then take a break, take lots of great pictures.
Next, we'd like to recognize Russell Poon, who won second place for grades 6 through 8 and the Jurors Award for Outstanding Work, and he's from Margaret Brent Middle School. Rebecca Collier was awarded first place in grades 9 through 10 and the Jurors Award for Outstanding Work, and she is a student at Chopticon High School. Next, we have Leaf Bugler, second place, grades 9 through 10, and the Jurors Award for Outstanding Work from Great Mills High School. We took a break from the Superintendent's Art Gallery for a while, and we wanted to revamp it and really rediscover how we could make it so much more meaningful for students. So if you'll notice, it used to be that the Superintendent's Art Gallery took up the whole building, lots and lots of pieces of work, and they stayed up for about 2 years, and then we would redo the installation. We thought that it would be really nice if we could focus on a smaller amount of artwork and rotate it more frequently. So we have 8 pieces. There will always be 7 to 8 pieces on display of the Superintendent's Art Gallery, and they will always be housed here in the boardroom. So there are 4 pieces that you see in here, and then the other 3 or 4 will always be down the superintendent's hallway. So every marking period, those pieces of artwork will be substituted. So it will always be fresh. There will always be something new to look at and something new to appreciate, as well as the ability to really take the time to appreciate those pieces of art instead of having to absorb many pieces of art. So we are happy with our first installation, and our test run, our guinea pigs, were Jason Ailey from Margaret Brent Middle School. If you can come on up, Jason. Joseph. And at the break, we'll be able to go and visit their artwork. And yes, and hopefully they will travel to where their artwork is and be able to talk to you about it. Odessa Baker from Dinard Elementary School. Lily McGee from Captain Walter Francis Duke Elementary School. And Joshua Miller from Letty Marshall Dent Elementary School. And our last one is a big one. It's a big deal. The Congressional Art Competition this year was titled An Artistic Discovery, and it encourages high school students who reside in Maryland's 5th Congressional District, which is Calvert, Charles, and St. Mary's counties, parts of Prince George's County, and Anne Arundel County, to participate in the 34th Annual Congressional Art Competition for a chance to have their artwork displayed in the U.S. Capitol for 1 year. Through the annual Congressional Art Competition, members of Congress showcase the artistic talent of high school students within their districts. The winner of each district competition earns a display space in the main corridor connecting the House office buildings with the U.S. Capitol, a walkway through which millions of visitors to the Capitol travel each year. And we were lucky enough to have the winner of the entire 5th Congressional District come from St. Mary's County, and that is Miss Tara Amon from Chaptacon High School. She is a senior, and here is her work, which, by the way, is not a photograph. So come on up, Tara. So, thank you very much.
So we're going to take a break now, and we're going to get some really great pictures. I want to thank all of our fantastic artists and all of the parents and loved ones who support them. Special thanks to those people who are in the superintendent's gallery. That really, for me, that's really important. We spend a lot of time in this boardroom. Sometimes meetings go really, really long, and we talk about a lot of things that need to be talked about, but perhaps they're not the most interesting things at times. And so when we can look up and see our fantastic artwork of our students, it really
because
is.
they won't open the blinds.
Well, because if we saw outside, that'd be very distracting. But actually, this really does. It really, a lot of people come into this office or into this space, and a lot of people come down the hallway to the office. And so it really is important that artwork is out and people see it and they think about it, and that you take the time to express yourself. You are all exceptionally talented, and thank you so much for sharing. Now let's get some pictures.
All right, so with that, we'll take a 10-minute recess, and Mr. Smith will coordinate the
I'm
pictures.
going to coordinate this. Let's start with Leonard.
It's free to a good home. I secure. Could you?
Yeah, it's an.
You can't do what?
Can't have your dog.
Around the northern. All right, I'd like to reconvene the meeting of the St. Mary's County Board of Education. Let's see, we have no public comment, correct? Okay, so consent agenda. May I have a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented?
I move that we approve the consent agenda as presented.
Do I have a second?
I second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. First on our action item list is Mr. Larry Hartwick with roof replacement.
Let's talk about Piney Point's roof.
Good evening, board members. I think this presentation is guaranteed to put you to sleep, so.
Oh, that's not
No,
a
we're
good
looking
thing today.
That's right, we've got our work now.
No, look at those beautiful colors. That's
okay.
that's artwork
Okay.
in itself.
So this action item tonight is to ask for your approval of the construction document for the roof replacement at Piney Point Elementary School. This is all derived from the public school construction program requirement that the board approve plans prior to submission for state review. The Department of General Services is a partner with the Public School Construction Program. They actually perform the review. We hope that DGS will actually perform this review in-house to kind of speed up the process. Several months ago, we were before you asking for the design award to Restoration Engineering Incorporated. That was back in late April. At this point, the plans are ready for submission, but we're anticipating it's going to take 4 to 8 weeks for the review. The process is that we then take those comments and we have to respond back to those comments, and then DGS provides us permission to proceed with bidding. Now, this project, the construction funds are both from state and local sources, all FY 2017 CIP. In terms of where we're at today, a cost estimate is based on the construction documents, and the direct construction cost for the roof replacement is just over $1 million. The cost estimate does not include inflation to bid time or contingency at this point. It's seldom, but it's possible that the cost estimate may change in response to the review comments. But I will say that this is well within our budget, and there's some possibilities for add alternates, and there's also the possibility that we do concurrent mechanical work, such as the replacement of a roof-mounted chiller. This is the right time to replace that chiller. So where we're at is we're continuing to kind of push the project along. We are actively pre-qualifying roofing contractors as part of the multi-step procurement process. We hope to bring you that pre-qualification recommendation in August. Bid documents will be finalized hopefully in August so that we can bid the project in September and award in October. Now, our anticipation is that the work will be done in the summer of 2017. And this sounds early, but it really is advantageous to us because a lot of these contractors get booked up early in terms of roof projects throughout the state. It allows them to lock in their prices and begin the process of submittals early on. But the other advantage is, which I don't think will happen, but it's always possible, that if we have a bust in the bid, it gives us time to basically rework value engineering and get it back out on the street. We anticipate that the work can be done in a single summer, but we are going to open it up to the contractor that they would have an option to work weekends or at nights in order to expedite the work if they needed to. So again, we hope to have that done in the summer of 2017. So this just kind of gives you an indication, and we provided you all the plans. I'm sure you've spent lots of time studying those. But as a review, again, this is just a graphic of the building with the three major sections that have been re-roofed over the years. This section shown here is the 1993 portion of the building, and you can see how cut up this roof is and how many expansion joints, and it's a roof that has multiple roof decks. It has Texan, it has gypsum, it has steel deck, and a lot of really tricky details that had to be worked out. So that's kind of the character of it. The total project is 58,000 square feet. Now, just quickly, I wanted to show you this section because it shows the major components of the roof. Our preferred roofing system is a built-up asphalt roof, and it's kind of like a layered cake here. That's what we're showing there. It starts with a base sheet that's fastened to the deck below, and then we have multiple layers of polyiso insulation The total depth of that's going to be about 5 to 6 inches. So that's going to increase the R value of the roof to about R30. And that's comparable to what we've done on our lead projects. And then there's a little protection board on top. And then there are 4 layers of asphalt and fiberglass membrane that are embedded in layers in asphalt. You stagger those. So it really creates a very cohesive and watertight system. Oh, and the final point is that on the very top of this, rather than using gravel, which we've done for years, we're using a cap sheet, a granular cap sheet, which is highly reflective. That actually adds another layer, so it's possible that this roof could be warranted with a few changes to 30 years. And so that will be one of our ad alternates. Take advantage of that. So this slide is just intended to show you the complexity of some of these roof systems as they kind of meet up. This is a higher roof over the multi-purpose room. One of the key factors is not just the roofing membrane, but it's things like flashing. And so we will be going through and replacing a lot of the old flashing. What I really like about REI as a designer is they really put in redundancy. So this through-wall flashing is essentially stainless steel, but then they put a sheet membrane over that, so you have 2 layers of protection. And you can just see how complex all this comes. The through-wall flashing goes into an expansion joint. Expansion joints are notorious for leaking. So again, there's multiple layers, not just a top cap. And just as an illustration of how complex these things can get, REI actually is one of the few engineers that I know, roofing engineers, that do isometric drawing. Because when you get into these corners and you're seeing things in plan, but you kind of need to see how things all fit together. And that was the point of showing you that detail. So those are the plans. That's the cost estimate. So we're asking your approval tonight of the construction documents for the roof replacement at Piney Point so that we can submit it to the state for their review. Questions?
Yes, such as the, I guess, mechanical work, such as, like you said, the roof-mounted chiller or like the AC or, any of those type of things, when would you know if you need to replace those along with replacing the roof?
Well, Mr. Whidden does a fantastic job through his comprehensive maintenance plan of kind of tracking where we're at. And the chiller that we're talking about is roof mounted. And to do a proper re-roofing, you really need to pull that chiller off.
Okay.
And so I think it's 2 years away from replacement. So the timing is really right on that. So.
Okay. So then you would be coming back also with a bid for doing.
Yeah, I haven't decided exactly.
So it's going to be an all-in-one.
I think probably not in terms of the mechanical. I think we'll probably just do concurrent contracts because the people we're pre-qualifying are largely roofing contractors. And it's not that complex to coordinate mechanical work with a roofing contractor. It happens all the time with new construction. Right. So, I'm thinking something like job order contracting, or maybe we'll put it out to bid or something like that.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Carney?
No questions. Good job.
Yeah, thank you. I had the same comments that Mrs. Weaver did, so very good. But I guess one other question, do you anticipate any changes when this goes through the review process at the state level that would increase the cost?
It's possible.
Okay.
It's possible. Yeah, we'll just have to wait and see.
Okay. But we still have cushion within the budget amount?
We have cushion.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
I like the idea that you have cushion, as you say, so it will start and the work will be done prior to the end of the 2016-2017 school year, and they have time to do night or weekend work, or you have time to rebid it if something goes wrong. So I like the cushion that you have in here by getting started earlier, and then you can lock in the price if everything goes as scheduled as well. Thank you. Good
You're welcome.
job.
Thank you.
Mrs. Allen?
I noticed that the intention is to salvage 70% of the brick veneer that's there, and to reuse that. How likely is it they're going to be able to do that? I mean, in terms of it, because I mean, the brick that's there for us to match it up is going to be certainly a challenge in the first place, and just the idea of them removing it and getting the mortar off and then being able to reuse it is.
Yes. Again, this is not atypical. We've done it at Leonardtown Middle School, for instance. We found that the leaks at that school were primarily associated with poor flashing from the original construction. So, they're able to saw cut it out very carefully. And, I mean, it's not at a very prominent place anyway. I mean, it's up on the roof. So, I really don't anticipate that being a major problem.
Yeah, I just didn't know if,
Yep.
if they weren't able to salvage 70%, the impact on the cost to have to.
It certainly would increase the cost.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. That's all. Thank you.
Anything else? Okay. All right, with that, do I have a motion for this recommended action item?
I move that the Board of Education approve the construction documents for the roof replacement at Piney Point Elementary School as presented by staff.
Do I have a second?
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, security cameras. Mr. Wyatt.
Yes, good evening.
Good evening.
There you go.
So board members, I'll begin with a little bit of background. Through a lot of collaboration and hard work and partnership, particularly with Larry's shop, Steve's, design and construction, capital planning and maintenance, we've been able to really move forward since 2008 with our security systems. And we've always been very mindful of the fact that the dollars we spend, we're trying not to impact the classroom dollar. And part of what you're going to hear tonight in the projects is just that we're using grant funds, quality zone improvement projects, those kinds of things to move forward with our strategic plan for putting physical security components in place. Improvements have included precise procedures regarding daily security at every school building, enhanced communication. You heard from Mr. Smith this evening about strong relationships with first responders and security presence in schools. But primarily among the physical security components that we've been able to accomplish, and Larry was well into this before I had arrived, was security vestibules at all schools. Many public school districts are still struggling with that whole concept and that idea that there's one way in and one way out, and there's directional control for visitors daily. Electronic registration for all of our visitors. The first year or two that I was here, we actually had our information technology services develop our own building access management system. And many of you may have recalled that part of the challenges with that was many of these systems are so proprietary and they're extremely costly. There's a site license, a seat license for almost every application that you have for those kinds of things. And with our own system being created here, we own it, we manage it. We work with IT all the time to develop different things that it really has become a very robust system. Access control for all of our schools and school facilities. Very happy to say that through this effort, that every school building, every office has some form or fashion of electronic access control. It is not exactly where we want it to be, but we've done the best we could. And we've worked with every facility, every school administrator to prioritize the needs of the system and make it work for them. And in addition to that, security cameras, surveillance cameras at all school buildings, particularly focusing on keeping up with the technology, if you will. Moving from the VHS era to the beta and now into, we have analog. We actually still have a few analog cameras. Mr. Young's not going to be happy that I announced that, but there's still a few analog cameras out there. But we're working towards Internet Protocol IP-based camera systems. And it's been a lot of effort and a lot of work. Again, just mindful of the budget and where we're going with those kinds of things. Why security cameras, well, for all the obvious reasons, but they do serve as a deterrent, clearly, primarily for evidence and investigations. They're used every day by our school administrators, particularly at the secondary level. There's probably not a month that goes by, I'd say every 2 weeks on average, we receive a subpoena from a law enforcement official or a state's attorney's office regarding possible criminal activity on school grounds or after school hours, those kinds of things that involve the cameras. To help resolve conflicts and questions on many occasions where a parent may say what happened, what really happened, we're able to, in compliance with law, show them the correct portions of video that will resolve a conflict or a question about what may or may not have happened during a particular incident in school. And absolute peace of mind that if something does happen, we're going to be able to work with officials to help them with that. And I will tell you that as we're building out the elementary school projects, lots of money, you can spend a lot of money on cameras. You can put 100 cameras in a school system in an elementary school, and the bottom line is if you're not capturing what you need, it's really not serving the purpose. So one of the focus areas we're working on are the parking lots, primarily the primary entrance in and out for vehicles. Why? Because we want tag numbers. Pictures are great, but I'm sure you've seen so many times on the news where somebody put a picture up there and you couldn't tell who it was if they gave you $1 million. But if you have a tag number, you can give it to an officer, or you can have a series of tag numbers and say, here's who was in and out at that time. That's at least a substantial lead that they can work with. Currently, all of our secondary schools have security camera systems. We have 11 of our elementary school sites covered and the 3 office sites. The challenges currently are obviously the camera life is about 5 years. Proud to boast that we have some cameras that are actually 8 years. Do we have one that's 10 yet? Or close to 10 years. Yeah, actually outdoor cameras that are 8 and 10 years old that, again, through just working and keeping them going, we're putting the Band-Aid on them and we keep them running. And what we try to do is as we have our money and we spend it, is we try to prioritize the needs. Obviously, you use security assessments, threat risk assessments. Where a particular school may be in the community may have an impact on where we and how we put cameras, those kinds of things. So we work at all that pieces of information to put this together. New technology releases, that's where they're at with this. I'm going to let Mr. Young speak a little bit to that. They used to be, again, very proprietary. We have worked very hard for open architecture, and that has been the main focus for the last 2 years with our camera systems, and we're really close to having that. And then, of course, the funding to maintain current systems and upgrades. It's always great to put a new system in, but the challenge becomes, how you patch it, how do you keep it going, those kinds of things. And, again, with support from Mr. Whidden and others, the Department of Maintenance, we're able to do that, fairly decent job with that. I'm going to ask John just to speak a little bit about the architecture pieces and the technology. So, John, if you would.
And as Mike was saying, new technologies come out in cameras all the time. It's actually one of the fastest growing technology fields is security cameras or any type of physical security. So over the years, we've had a 100% Panasonic system. You can ask any security engineer, that is top of the line. Panasonic cameras, when you say, I have a 100% Panasonic system, they're all impressed with that. The thing with that Panasonic system, though, is it is very proprietary. As Mike was saying earlier, that we've, over the years, built out security vestibules, the visitor login. So we're going to more of an enterprise system with our security cameras so that we can tie in to other systems we put in. The BAM system, if we want to start writing out code where we can tie in our security cameras with our building access monitoring, with our access control, we're able to do that with an enterprise system. Another thing with that is we can also look at new technologies, step away from possibly that Panasonic camera into a new type of camera, a new technology that may better suit whether we're trying to cover a parking lot or if we're trying to cover a hallway or a cafeteria, whatever it may be. Another advantage of it is scalability and storage cost. With the older systems, you're paying a large amount of money for your storage. This way now storage costs as much as adding and working with IT, where we can add hard drives now into a server instead of buying a whole new system to support the storage and any additional cameras that we need. Okay? So.
Thanks, John. So we've had indefinite quantity contracts for, I think, going on 6 years now. This is going to be our third round of this. And we lean heavily on Larry and his expertise in the procurement and bidding process. And I'm going to ask Mr. Hartman to come up and speak to what we've done this year as far as that work goes and the contract that's presented to you this evening. So, Larry.
All right. Camera systems do require a high degree of expertise. There's a design element to this. In terms of compatibility and consistency within the system, we thought it was important to basically put this in a request for proposal so that we could evaluate both technical and price consideration. As always, we advertised in email and marketplace. In this case, on May 2nd, we had 233 inquiries and 26 firms actually picked up the documents. We received 4 proposals on May 18, 2016. Like our other RFPs and definite quantity contracts, the contract is for 1 year with 2 one-year renewals. A major element of this RFP was that we identified 4 projects to be funded from the Qualified Zone Academy Bond. And that's important because there's a state requirement that we advertise those projects. So that was our way of fulfilling that. And we did not share those budgets with the proposers, but that gives you an order of magnitude of what we're talking about, from $32,000 to about $42,000. We are lucky on this project that we have a small contingency from local funds of $22,000. And that will be the major focus, I think, initially. The RFP also asked them to respond to a timeline on starting July 1st. Would they be able to finish all 4 schools by school opening? And the successful proposer affirmed that they could and provided a very good plan on how to do that. Now, in all of our bids and RFPs, we require a notarized contract affidavit. That affidavit is mandatory through the state finance procurement, Article 21. It deals with anti-bribery, non-collusion. So it's an important document, and we were a bit taken back that 2 of the proposals had inadequate. In one case, they didn't provide it. And in another case, they did not properly notarize it. So it's our recommendation that those 2 proposals be rejected by the board. Both firms have been told that that would be our recommendation, and they have filed no protest. The evaluation committee was comprised of Mr. Wyatt, Mr. Whidden, Mr. Young, and myself. So of the 2 that remained for evaluation, G Technologies Corporation was clearly the most proficient technically, and they were also had the most advantageous pricing. Now the pricing was based on unit prices, as in previous indefinite quantity contracts. So it's quite a difference in range there in terms of qualification. So a little bit about G Technology Corporation. They've been in business since 2005, which for a small company in that industry is pretty impressive. They're based in St. Leonard, Maryland, so they're fairly local, and they strictly specialize in camera systems, and they do a lot of federal work. So they're heavily into video analytics, which is probably the next iteration of what's happening. They were the previous awardee, and they held that for 3 years for security camera systems. They've proven themselves to be highly responsible and knowledgeable. The direction to go was the enterprise system, I think, was largely the suggestion of G Technologies. And they did provide advantageous pricing. In some cases, the prices under today's contract, unit prices are less than they were 3 years ago. So it's our recommendation to you that you reject the proposals from Interface Systems and Johnson Controls Incorporated as non-responsive and approve the contract award of SMCPS 2016-10 DSS-DC to G Technologies Corporation. The board further authorizes the use of the contract up to a total of $173,988 for project funded by the FY 2017 Qualified Zone Academy Bond. We think we probably will be below that factor, but we need to move quickly. We don't have proposals yet, so that's why we're asking for this authorization at this point. So with that, we'll go ahead and take your questions.
I wanted to find out, how long does the cameras retain the information, or the computer retain this information?
It's actually written in our policy now. Before, when we had the analog cameras, that was a significant challenge because it was anybody's guess. So one of the advantages to the internet protocol, the IP, and as John said, the data storage is guaranteed 30-day minimum is what we're required now. And again, these cameras are running 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So there's a lot of data that's coming in all the time. So it's structured now that we can, if somebody within 30 days says, I need this piece of information, we're able to secure it and keep it for whatever the purpose may be.
Now, I know that it comes out as 360 degrees, but does it focus then on movement? Like, say, like a car pulls in and it would...
We have that capability is built into the system now. It does take a unique camera to do that, and we are certainly looking at those. And John actually can speak. We've talked to G Technologies about they actually have tag recognition.
Right, that's what I was...
Very specific cameras and databases now that run constantly. So we can actually, you could build out the capacity to say, this tag is on our no-fly list, so to speak, and it will send us an email to say this vehicle is in your parking lot. So the technology that's out there is incredible now. The integration piece that John was speaking to, particularly with our access control, is that we can say we want to know every time somebody presents a badge, and it'll recognize and it'll actually send a picture to whatever computer we want if we want to know who that is, those kinds of things. So it has unbelievable capability. Again, part of that is just the investment and getting the integration pieces done. So.
Now, I know you were talking about the cameras and all, but do the cards have something that reads the minute that you walk in the door, that it knows you've gone in, even if you don't swipe it, like you hold the door open for somebody?
No.
No, okay.
No. It has to be presented at the reader, which is part of the policy that's written, that is, for as much as an inconvenience it is, there's nothing convenient about security, is that we ask every time somebody walks by one or enters a building to please flash their card, because the system is recording, even if the door doesn't open or whatever, that somebody has presented that, so we know where somebody was at. Primarily because if there is a disaster, we can build an accountability list from the server based on that if we lose everything else. So.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
What resolution are these cameras? Because you spoke earlier about how you see it on television, nobody could figure out who that person was,
Right.
even their mother. Are we upgrading to?
100%. The
Okay.
internet protocol, the digital camera age, and let John speak to that, but we can actually control the resolution and the frames per second. So John, if you want to add to that.
For example, this camera right here, that is actually a 1080p camera.
Okay.
Again, it goes back to storage. When you're recording 24/7 at high definition 1080p, you're going to burn up storage.
Mhm.
So this camera actually, and then through analytics, we're able to say that is recording only on motion. It only records at 720 for so many seconds before and after, but during the motion, it is recording at 1080. So we're able to take it down to that level. Some of the cameras that are proposed are actually at a 4K resolution. So if you have it up high on a building, you're able to actually zoom in and see in high definition, a high detail in the back of a parking lot if you have to.
So
Right.
it won't pixelate out.
Okay.
And you could see, I mean, literally, if you look at the difference between an analog camera and a digital camera, the difference is incredible,
Sure.
truly incredible.
Now, have we presented the bond or the what do you want to say, this information to the county commissioners, get authorization to accept the
And I'll
dollars?
let Mr. Hartwick speak to it. It's actually state monies that.
Yeah, it's actually federal money that's given to the states, and that's everything except $22,000, which was the support from the local county commissioners.
But we have not approved the grant, so to speak.
Yes.
We're receiving money,
the-
and we normally go through an approval process for the grants.
Yeah, actually, it's part of the state CIP, that allocation.
Okay, so
Yeah.
the state's paying the bill?
Yes. Yeah.
Thank you.
I have two more global questions. The first one is, and it kind of struck me on the slide about the number of schools that have and the ones that do not have cameras. Do we have any type of plan for implementation of cameras, across the system? So and where I'm going is, so let's say that you guys all get hit by a bus next week, hope not, but, if we have other
Really
people
hope
that
not.
come in, right, then, I want them to be able to pick up where you left off, and if you've evaluated all the schools and say, okay, this is what we need next, and this is the next one, that when we have funds that come in, this is where we should be heading, we don't have to start from scratch or have someone else do an entire system evaluation.
Yeah, absolutely. In great detail, it was written out. And
Okay.
I will tell you that it paid huge dividends to us post Sandy Hook because the governor actually issued that security initiative monies. And the question to most public school districts is, okay, here you go. How are you going to spend it? We had the plan.
Okay.
The plan was written in 2008, and we updated every year. And again, we're trying to get everybody at least up to a certain level of technology. But
Okay.
yes, it is there and it is in writing.
Okay, then my second piece of that is, and you kind of alluded to it, as, that you're trying to get, use the most of the money that you're given
Yes.
each year, and we know it's not a lot. But for the schools, we share a lot of our school sites that are either adjacent to Parks and Rec, or the Parks and Rec uses the schools outright. So where are those schools on the list? And where I'm going with that is to build a budget for next year. If the county is using our schools for, their activities, right, then I would expect that we would be able to have proper security and cameras because we have other people that are in our buildings. Do you see where I'm going? with
I
that?
understand. It's a great question, and we've actually talked to the county several times about sort of integration with what they're doing, not specifically the Parks and Rec piece of it, but for example, public safety and emergency management, because
Right.
they do have certain camera systems that are up and those kinds. And we've actually used our cameras in the Emergency Operations Center.
Well, that's
During
my point. Or
hurricanes,
even,
right.
or even just like, looking up at Letty Den, they've greatly
Yes.
expanded that park up there. So there
Right.
are people in that park up until 11 o'clock at night.
It's a great
Right.
suggestion, and I'll take that under advisement. We haven't approached them about that yet.
Right,
That may be a way to get some of the other schools online
Right,
to some level.
So in
Right,
building the
that's my
18
thought.
budget, that would be something that we would
Right.
want to.
Yeah,
Right,
the
I
issue
mean-
is, of course, we always have to maintain control, because the other piece of this is we're always dealing with, federal law actually
Right,
prohibits us.
I'm 100% with
right.
that, but with them using and partnering with our
Yeah,
schools on
right.
so many programs across the county in different places, even if we would have to open them for, a shelter, during a hurricane or disaster, anything,
Yep.
if we are lacking something that we are security-wise, but yet we are still providing and opening our doors to a county for a service that they don't provide, but they are using us to provide,
Right.
then, let's put that in our budget.
Yeah, no, that's
Yeah.
actually, well, I would definitely check into that, so.
All right, that's all I have, but thank you. It was a
Thank
great
you.
presentation.
Yeah.
I was thinking more globally
Yeah,
than
that's great.
Mrs. Washington.
I'm very appreciative of the money that the state has given us for upgrades. And we have to make sure that we keep our community, our students, our staff safe and our buildings safe. So this is a good thing. I also am very interested in the upgrades, with so many upgrades coming out with the cameras and security systems, and we have to keep up with those. So I think this is very good. Thank you for keeping us safe, the community safe, the students safe, and the employees safe. Thanks.
In the past, when you've come to us with some of these, you have been able to upgrade schools that already have cameras and roll those cameras into another school that perhaps doesn't have cameras. Is that something you're going to be able to do with what you're proposing here?
Probably to some degree, on a very small scale, only because of, again, the technology that has changed.
Understand.
What the new pieces that we put in place are, we know they absolutely need to be there, so we don't have a lot of extra inventory.
Okay.
Like we used to. And again, we've gone from NVRs to DVRs and now to enterprise, and we have some of those sitting on the shelf that we were talking the other day about actually, can we use this now, as a patch? So we're making use of what we can with the surplus equipment, but there's not much left.
Well, and I certainly support what Mrs. Bailey has suggested about making the case to the county that with the sites that they are utilizing for a variety of reasons, some assistance to upgrade or to implement cameras at those sites in particular would be helpful.
Being able to tag rate every vehicle that comes in at any public school, lot would be something that's of great benefit to not only us, but also to the county and the sheriff's department.
Yes.
So, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Okay, anything else, anyone? Okay. Then with that, I have a motion for this action item.
I move that the Board of Education rejects the proposals from Interface Systems and Johnson Controls Incorporated as non-responsive, and approve the contract award of SMCPS 2016-10-DSS-DC to G Technologies Corporation. The board further authorizes the use of the contract up to a total of $173,988 for projects funded by FY 2017 Qualified Zone Academy bonds and local CIP funds.
Do I have a second?
I second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen.
All right. Mr. Whidden.
Thank you, Larry.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Oops. I'll start at the beginning. This evening, I'm here to ask for approval to replace piping between the fire suppression or fire tank at Letty Marshall Dent and the main building. The fire system at Letty Marshall Dent, we're not tied into the city, so it is dependent on a 10,000 gallon tank that's stored underground. It's refilled by a well system. And it's connected to the school's fire pump via a 4-inch underground main pipe. The domestic water system, although it is a separate system, it utilizes the same underground vault and basically the same technology to supply the building with drinking water. The vault is this square structure out here, which sits about maybe 4.5 foot off the ground. The tanks, 10,000 gallon tanks, are about 12 foot tall, and they run out from the vault about 20 foot this way is the fire tank, and the freshwater tank runs this way out from the vault underneath the tree. What we have to replace is the lines indicated in red underneath the pavement and the grounds. There's 2 4-inch lines underneath there. I think I talked about that in the next slide. I apologize. The fire sprinkler system, we detected it would not maintain correct operating pressures and was unable to function. The cause of the loss of the pressure was determined to be the underground piping between the fire sprinkler tank vault and the school. At first we thought it was the the actual tank. We were glad to find out it wasn't the 10,000 gallon tank, it was the line, although they are both difficult to replace or repair. The fire sprinkler system is not functional at this time, and a formal fire watch is in place. This fire watch is basically performed hourly. It's a written log, has to be signed off, and it is completely in compliance and was submitted to the Maryland Fire Marshal for approval in Prince Frederick, Maryland, that office. And it complies with Code 101, which is the Life Safety Code, Section 9. The fire alarm system is and has always been completely functional in the school. So the procurement method used, let me go back, and I apologize. Go back and talk about this for just a minute. We made a decision that we have to replace the line connecting the building to the fire tank. When they built the school, what they did was they laid 2 4-inch lines and 1 3/4-inch line in the same trench at the same depth. The 3/4-inch line was abandoned 20 years ago, and it was for air, to pressurize the tank. We since then installed the air compressor out there to get rid of the underground line. We made the decision when we did this bid, and we believe it is a smart one. If we're going to go and dig this up, and we're going to have the backhoe that close to a 4-inch line that's been there since 1979, we're going to replace both of them.
Good job.
Yeah. Because if I don't get this done, student pickup and drop off in the morning is actually right here.
It's not going to go well.
Yeah, it is. So I do have a couple, I'm pretty sure we'll be able to get the entire job done. Whether we'll be able to get it repaved and looking normal, maybe I'll have metal plates there for a week or two during the first couple, but I hope not to. So yeah, I thought that was in the slide. It is definitely in the agenda item that we're replacing both 4-inch lines.
Yes.
So we use a procurement method outlined in board policy GJC and the ed articles, as well as the state finance and procurement. We only received 1 bid. We individually, although it went on email and marketplace, and somewhere in the area of 250 to probably 280 vendors are automatically invited. We reached out to 11 vendors. I don't have them up here with me, but I have them back at my chair. We reached out to 11 vendors, some of them locals, some of them not local, but we're familiar with. They've done either plumbing work or utility work. We only got 1 bid back from Suburban Plumbing and Heating Incorporated. So we are familiar with Suburban, not so much direct contracting as through general contractors doing new construction. They were the plumbing contractor at Evergreen, and they've done several of the mechanical builds when we either renovate or build a new school. So the one lump sum fee came in at $46,200. We also built in an hourly rate and a % markup on materials in case we get underground and find something that we don't expect, which is possible. There is also a fire hydrant in the area, and it may be damaged on the way down, which would mean we had to replace that portion also. You will not notice during, or as part of my recommendation, I'm asking for, from a % perspective, a tad more money than I typically do because that fire hydrant is so close to that location. So the recommendation to the board is that the board approve, the Board of Education St. Mary's approve the award of SMCPS 2016 MRFSP to Suburban Plumbing and Heating Incorporated in the amount of $46,200 and approves an additional contingency of $6,000. Any questions?
Mrs. Wheaton.
So will this piping then allow it to have ample water pressure?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, that is the biggest problem. We have a leak underground. We can't keep pressure up enough to be able to
Okay,
keep
so
the
the-
fire
okay.
pump fed in the event of an event.
Okay. Thank you.
My question is similar to that, Ed. Is a 4-inch pipe still adequate? Because most fire engines now are putting a 5-inch supply line on the trucks. So will we upgrade it?
Unfortunately, I did not look at it from that perspective. I was completely focused on getting it functional the way it is. I can go back and look at that, but no, I did not.
Yeah, because it, they have added on to the school and pressures and such that, since you have it dug up and replacing, it might be wise to take a look and see if that's still the standard.
I do agree. I'd have to go back and we'd have to hire an engineer to go back and that would be more of an alternate for later. I mean, it would be an adaptation to the current system, and I'm not, we'd have to go back through the fire marshal because it would be an adaptation. Right now, it falls under what they consider a repair at the code, where I don't have to go back for fire marshal approval and review, because it's a direct replacement of what was there.
But what if your 5-inch pipe pushes more through into the system that you already have in place inside the school?
That,
Right,
you know,
'cause
you
you're able to-
deliver more water. and-
Right,
and-
but then
and
what
the
if
pressure.
what's in the school can't handle that
Okay.
additional?
It's designed to handle it.
If the board wishes, I can go back and look. The only caution here is that it could delay the beginning of the job, of course. And I'm not sure how the fire marshal would react to it. I know right now that because I'm doing a direct replacement, his approval is not required. So that's the only caution. And the only reason I didn't intentionally not look at it, it was in the Department of Maintenance, when we look at planning ahead, we look at design and upgrades for the future, but when we're looking at repairs, it's more of a, what do we have now? What do we need to get it back up and running with? So,
Okay, thank you.
you're welcome.
I don't have any questions. Thank you.
Very welcome.
Mrs. Washington?
No questions.
Thank you.
Mrs. Allen?
You mentioned that there is a mandatory fire watch in place. Is that only when the building is occupied, or is that 24/7?
It is only when it's occupied. The fire alarm system, like I said, will still function.
Right.
It'll notify us of a smoke event.
Okay. So there's no overtime cost associated with having to have that fire watch in
No.
the manner? Okay.
It's done by the building service manager, the night or the day manager.
Okay. To Mr. Carney's point, I wonder if it might behoove us to approve this so that it can be, potentially you have the approval to go forward, and that at the same time you check with the fire marshal to determine whether or not we should be upgrading it rather than, I don't know enough about it, and so I
You'd need a system engineer to go through to make sure that putting in 20% more
Right.
Pressure.
water,
Right.
whether it gets you a benefit. Whether because once everything's in there, all the pipes are only at a certain pressure, they can only handle, so.
I'm-
And I don't know what your cost would be, the difference between a 4-inch main and a 5-inch main for that run.
Well, all right, let's back up a minute. This fire suppression system is a sprinkler system within the school system.
Yes.
Okay, so we are not talking about water that the fire department is going to come in and deliver to this, and the entire building is sprinklered?
Yes.
Okay, then I'm good with moving ahead with this. We have been in the conversation of whether or not this is the next school to be renovated and modernized and an addition put on. That, I think, would be the time to really look at whether or not we need to increase the capacity and do so with a full vetting by an appropriate engineer. So I think Mr. Carney makes a good point and one to take forward, but I think that the plan that you're putting forward at this time is the appropriate one. So I will support this. Thank you.
Rita, do you have anything else? You're kind of shaking your head.
Well, no, I guess once again, going back to this point, I know that sometimes they come out with a recommendation by the year 2020, you need to have this in place, or the year, and that's what I just want to make sure that it's not going to be in the year 2018. We have to have something different in place.
Well, here's the situation. We have a school right now that does
That's-
not
yeah.
have water going to it in case there is a fire.
Got a building
Okay.
service manager
Right,
walking around
exactly.
going every
right,
hour.
And I have
Yeah.
a gentleman there that is checking everything every hour on the hour and signing off on a log. right? So just, and I'm just.
No, I think
I'm
it's-
just gonna play devil's advocate. So in order to, if we can fix it now and alleviate this potential item that we may have, right?
And then come back and look at it.
Well,
for
right,
future.
and then to Kathy's point is, when they did present, Letty Dent was on the list to have a possible, expansion in the upcoming years. But I think it's, there was nothing wrong with the system prior to the pressure, prior to the
Leak.
pipe going bad, correct?
No, man, it's tested every 6 months.
Right, so I don't think there's any need to kind of reinvent the wheel and upgrade it because we are at this point where,
Because when
we
you
don't
look-
have water that will go to the building.
Right.
And,
And that could impact our insurance if there were a fire.
right, so
Right.
just in dealing with state agencies and everything, we have no idea how long it would take them, to get an engineer out, to put a proposal together, to
Right,
get the
my
state fire
question would be
marshal to sign
then,
off
for
on
all
it.
of our other schools,
Right.
Right.
is it a 4-inch main going to all the other schools? Because, the difference between
Right.
a 4-inch main and a 5-inch main, and, that's.
I'm working through it all in my head, and I can tell you what you're looking for is
No, I think
you're looking
it's a
for
good-
density of, how close together the sprinkler heads are, because that increases and decreases
Right.
flow. I'm not a fire marshal.
Right.
I've worked with several. What I can tell you is if you choose to let me move forward with this repair, I can move forward as quick as possible we are actually currently working with a consultant who is an ex-fire marshal. I'm pretty sure I could probably get a feel, maybe not an approval, but I could get a lot better understanding of where I'm going quicker through him. And then if we feel, we being the support service division, feel as a group that it would be better to come back to you and change the recommendation or delay the project or alter it somehow, I think that would be the best I could do in the situation that we're currently in with the school.
Well, and we have a great opportunity now. I mean, not to belittle the few amount of personnel that are in the building right now, but I mean, clearly the students finish school without the system fully operational. So I don't want to put us in a situation where we're now going to bring them back in August and
Right.
still have the same thing.
So I think it's to me, I think it's a good fix for now, and then maybe when you add on to the building, maybe at that point, if we need to upgrade and change the system, do it then.
Right.
If it needs to at that point, if it's not.
Right. So let's fix what we have because we are rolling on a
So-
fire watch.
So at your direction, I will go back and have a follow-on meeting with Mr. Whidden next week to go through the discussion and have a little bit of subject matter expert actually kind of weigh in and give you a communication update, just to
That
let
would
you know
be
what we
good.
found out.
Yes.
We can do that, most definitely.
Perfect.
Okay. All right. Good discussion question, Mr. Carney.
I'm not a one-trick pony.
Well, there's also a man that that once you dig something up, that's a good time to figure out whether or not we should
Right,
do
you're
it differently, right?
Your computer might not work, but you got it.
But
so.
he knows his fire stuff.
does.
A volunteer firefighter.
I'll be on my glasses.
All right, and with that, any more discussion? Okay. Okay, may I have a motion to approve this action item, please?
I move that the Board of Education approve the award of ITB St. Mary's County Public School 2016 M RFSP to Suburban Plumbing and Heating Incorporated in the amount of $46,200 and approve an additional contingency of $6,000.
Do I have a second?
I second it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Okay, and with that, our next board meeting will be on Tuesday, July 12th, not Wednesday, at 9 a.m. Okay, because we have some board members that are doing some things, so we will make
Yes,
sure
I
we
will be
have.
with the American Legion.
That's right. Thank you, Rita. So, okay, and with that, we are adjourned.